In the small town of Willowbrook, nestled among the dense ancient forests of New England, there stood a quaint, colonial house that bore the weight of centuries on its time-worn shoulders. The house was known as the Alden residence, and it was a place steeped in history and legends, some whispered in hushed tones by the townsfolk. But for John Alden, the latest inheritor of this historic property, it was simply a home in need of repair. John had moved to Willowbrook seeking a fresh start after a painful divorce and the loss of his job in the city. The house had been passed down through generations of his family, and he had decided to make it his own. It was a house filled with memories, both happy and haunting, but he believed the change of scenery would help him heal. One chilly autumn evening, as he delved into the labyrinth of boxes in his basement, he stumbled upon an unusual discovery. Behind a rickety bookshelf covered in cobwebs was a hidden door, its existence known only to the most secretive of family members. John's curiosity piqued, he pushed the door open, revealing a passage that led into darkness. A flickering light in his hand, John cautiously entered the narrow tunnel, feeling the musty air caress his skin. The passageway meandered through the bowels of the earth, twisting and turning like the tendrils of a monstrous root. The walls were damp, adorned with strange etchings and symbols that hinted at a sinister history. As he ventured deeper into the tunnel, John's fear grew, but so did his curiosity. His footsteps echoed in the distance, an eerie sound that seemed to be absorbed by the darkness, swallowed by the tunnel's ancient secrets. Hours turned into days as he explored the endless maze of passageways. He couldn't find his way back, and panic gnawed at the edges of his sanity. It was then that he heard it, a faint whisper that seemed to come from all directions. The voice was raspy, like the rustling of dry leaves, and it spoke in a language that John couldn't understand. John continued to follow the voice, convinced it held the key to his escape. The tunnel seemed to stretch endlessly, and he felt as if he were descending into madness. The walls closed in on him, and the eerie symbols grew more intricate, as if they were telling a story of unspeakable horrors. Finally, John stumbled upon a vast underground chamber. The walls were lined with candles, their flickering flames casting grotesque shadows on the walls. In the center of the room, a grotesque creature crouched, its skin pale and mottled, its limbs twisted and elongated. It had no eyes, only empty sockets, and its mouth was a gaping maw filled with jagged, broken teeth. The creature turned its head toward John, and the raspy voice that had haunted him grew louder and more malevolent. It was a voice that spoke of ancient, unending hunger, a hunger for fear and suffering. As John backed away in terror, he realized that he was not alone in the chamber. A gallery of tortured souls, trapped in a never-ending nightmare, surrounded him. Their eyes were vacant, and their faces bore the anguish of countless lifetimes of torment. The creature lunged at John, and he stumbled backward, his fear amplifying the creature's power. It fed on his terror, growing stronger with each passing moment. John knew that he had to escape, but the tunnels had become a labyrinthine nightmare, a never-ending descent into madness. Desperation and survival instinct guided him as he raced through the tunnels, his heart pounding in his chest. He could hear the creature's raspy voice echoing behind him, growing closer with every step. It whispered horrors, dredging up his deepest fears and nightmares. In the darkness, John finally found a glimmer of hope. He spotted a faint light at the end of one of the tunnels. As he rushed toward it, the creature's voice grew louder, its presence more oppressive. It was almost upon him, and he could feel its fetid breath on his neck. With a final burst of energy, John reached the source of the light and pushed through a hidden door, stumbling back into the basement of his home. The door slammed shut behind him, sealing the tunnels away. Gasping for breath, John collapsed on the basement floor, his heart still racing. He had narrowly escaped the clutches of the creature that dwelled in the depths, but he knew it would never be far from his thoughts. It was a malevolent force that fed on fear, and now that it knew of his existence, it would forever be a part of his life. John never spoke of his harrowing experience to anyone, fearing they would think him mad. But the whispers in the dark, the nightmares that plagued his sleep, and the feeling of being watched were constant reminders of the evil that lurked beneath his home.